Hi, everybody. So for today, I wanted to go over the general assignment guidelines for the research proposal and talk more specifically about the introduction in particular and go over the student sample, at least the introduction part of the student sample. So one thing I kind of wanted to point out with the research proposal is that although this is the longest paper that we have for this class, the minimum page length is 10 to 15 pages, right? Um, you're it's comprised of several different components. So the first component is the introduction. The second component is the literature review. So this is the same, it's basically the same project that you wrote for project 3 that you get to reuse for this proposal. Now, that being said, you'll probably want to revise your literature review somewhat based upon your grade and the feedback that you got. But in general, you should have a pretty good, a solid start at the literature review, which is the bulk of this paper, really. And then there's also two components after that, and we'll talk about those as they kind of come along. So for this week, though, what we want to focus on is writing that introduction. So as you've been reading, what this assignment is going to ask you to do for the introduction is to follow a very specific way of writing an introduction, which is called the CARS model by John Swales. So I did send you a link to a website that explains and kind of breaks down the CARS model. So the website is from the University of Southern California. It's their library research guide. So I just kind of like the way that it just kind of very clearly kind of describes what those moves are. So according to Swales, there's 3 moves to the introduction. The first move is establishing the situation. So giving kind of an overview and demonstrating that your general area of research is important or interesting, or that there's something, going on about it that requires some research, right? And then what you want to kind of notice here is that this has it broken down into there's 3 different steps that are taken to do this, to make up this move. And the second move then is to establish the problem. So this, you want to kind of take a note here that it says step 1, A, B, C, and D. And what this means is that, not all of these steps are necessarily taken, but you're going to kind of choose between them, right? As for what makes the most sense for your project. And then the third move is to provide the solution. And once again, you can see here it's step 1, A or B, right? So you kind of choose which one of these you do, and then move on to step 2 and 3. So it kind of makes sense in a way. It's kind of like, here's what the situation is, here's what the problem is, and then here's what the solution is, right? So if we kind of keep that in mind, I want to take a quick look at the student sample that I just posted today. There's another student sample in the week 10 activity folder, and I'm going to be quite honest with you. That's not a student sample. That was written by she's a student, but she's a graduate student, a PhD student, towards the end of her PhD work. So I think that it's a little bit different than what you're kind of doing. So I think that in some ways this sample here, which is actually a student sample from a previous semester, it maybe illustrates a little bit more what it is that you should be doing with your own research or with your own research proposal. So like I said, we're just going to look at the introduction right now, though on your own time, you should probably go ahead and take a look at the entire sample, right? So the first thing I just want to kind of draw your eye to here is that the introduction is kind of longish anyways. It's 2.5 pages or so long, and it's made up of five separate paragraphs. So it's a little bit longer of an introduction than maybe some of you are used to. I don't know, but I just kind of want to point that out. So the idea here is, like, you can kind of see from the first paragraph that what the student's doing in this paragraph is establishing the general topic and kind of making the claim that this topic is important, establishing that it's important. So we can see that the topic is sexual harassment in the workplace and how difficult it is to overcome, right? And we can see here too that she's using a lot of sources. So you should be kind of referring back to your sources without using quotes, really. You know, some quotes might be fine, some short quotes, but we really want to focus more on paraphrase and summary, right? And then we kind of move forward and we can see in this next paragraph that what she's doing is that she's establishing that there's the problem. So the problem here is that that people don't take sexual harassment training seriously. So the problem is how the reasons why people don't take sexual harassment seriously. And you can kind of see that she covers this in several paragraphs. She doesn't just talk about it in one, but she goes into 3 paragraphs establishing the problem and saying what that problem is. Now, you're going to want to kind of go through this maybe a little bit more closely to see what specific moves she's making within that, right? But that's the general gist, is to establish that problem that people don't take sexual harassment seriously. And we can see once again that she's using a lot of sources to back this up. And then we can take a look at the move that's being made here in the final paragraph, is the one where she's kind of establishing the solution, or what it is that she's going to be doing in her paper. So she kind of says here, she makes the claim that by looking at the attitudes of people working within the business, it's going to help to determine how much of an effect it's having, as well as help businesses become one step closer in overcoming sexual harassment. So, so we can see those 3 moves being made throughout this introduction. So like I said, I think that it would be good for you to go through this and take a look much more closely and read through that introduction. And it should give you a good sense of what kind of moves and how you should be structuring your own introduction for the research proposal as well. So if you have any questions, as always, be sure to email me and let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay?